Welcome to the Bill Levinson Experience, a motivational podcast relating to the insurance brokerage industry and business in general. And now, here's Bill Levinson.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Bill Levinson Experience podcast. So here we are, early September, right? Summertime. I hope everything's going well for you, or at least getting better, right? To end the year in a great way. And first off, I want to thank everyone for attending, for listening, right, to our various episodes and trainings. I think most important, I want you to walk away with nuggets, right? We have to bring value each and every month on the Bill Levinson Experience, and that's what this is about. So we have a guest speaker on today that's one of our Levinson agents. In fact, she works with Robert Ridgway, who is a marketing VP for Levinson. And I'll just take a second to introduce her. It's Natalie Cooper from Best Quote Insurance, Inc. is joining us. So, Natalie, if you want to say hello to everyone.
Hello, everybody.
My
name is Natalie, and glad to be here with you.
Oh, thank you, Natalie. We appreciate it. And, I want everyone to know that's listening, because we have agents from literally all over the country, from ages 18, 19 to literally in their 90s. So I think it's so important that we mention some of you we know maybe got licensed 6 months ago, a year ago, and others have been doing this for 40 to 52 years. Whatever the case is, you're here, you're listening, you're willing to learn and pivot, right, and change the way you do business. So kudos to each and every one of you. And thank you to Natalie, right, for taking the time out of her busy day to jump on this episode and to share some nuggets with you all. So Natalie, thank you, number one. Let's just jump right in. So Natalie, yes, she has her own business. She's an independent agent. And the way this whole thing came about is we have a ton of agents that call into our marketing team, and they love everything we offer and all the tools and platforms and technology. And sometimes it gets a little cumbersome and they don't know where to begin, or they want to speak to another Levinson agent and pick their brain to see what's working for them or what's not working. And unfortunately, we can't share any agent's contact information because per our contract, we have agencies or GAs, right, that have downline agents, and we are not legally allowed to give out someone's phone number or email address. Okay, so what I decided to do a few years ago was create the Bill Levinson Experience podcast and handpick some of our top agents to join and be a guest speaker so you all could listen to these interviews and these episodes, right, and learn. So that's how this whole thing came about. Robert Ridgway said, you know what, Bill, Natalie Cooper would be great, and let's ask her if she would like to join. And she said, absolutely. So that's how this whole thing came about. So, Natalie, again, thank you. And I just want to start off by just saying to you, we so appreciate you taking the time by doing this. And if you can share with the audience just a little background and how you wound up in this crazy business, take us back to day one, if you don't mind.
Well, day one was actually spent at home since I was a little kid because my father was in the business and other family members as well. So I grew up hearing about the insurance business and some mentors that my father had worked for. So it was already in the back of my mind and already in the back of his mind that I would join him later in life. So eventually I did follow his advice after I moved from Ohio to Florida and got licensed in life and health and a Series 6. And that was my entree, although I never did get to work with my dad. I ended up being approached by a friend who was recruiting for a local HMO, and that's how I started in the business.
Very, very interesting. And you know what? Now that you just said this, I remember talking with you at the expo, at the dinner the night before, and I remember hearing this whole story, which is just unbelievable. Do you remember that?
I do.
Yeah,
I absolutely do.
It's all coming back to me, and you're with your husband. I remember now. Okay, great. That makes it even better. Yeah, and you know it's interesting because I grew up right in a similar way with Carrie, my father, being in the business and kind of showing me the ropes, and he would talk to me about the life insurance business and how I need to get my license, and at the time I just wasn't ready, right? And I just said, Dad, it just seems so boring, and I don't know if I want to get into the life insurance industry. And sure enough, I obviously took the leap, and I feel like it's all what you make of it. And in this business, we were just talking about this offline. There's no right or wrong way. There's so many different avenues to generate leads, to network through different events, and it's basically how creative and scrappy can you get. And I just, not to get off topic, but I feel like, as soon as, maybe you come up with a good marketing idea or strategy, and then all of a sudden you see it work and the phone rings, or you get a comment on social media and it leads to a sale or a new agent for us, let's say, all of a sudden it's like the most exciting business in the world because you made it happen, and that's, how we grew Levinson in a nutshell. So it's just very interesting to hear the similar stories and background. So basically, today, and if you can just share with everyone what your focus is, and what products do you lean on, where what part of the market do you specialize in? Just give us a little background there.
My market is somewhat split in half. About half of my market is the senior market. The other half of my market is the term insurance and disability ancillary product market. So it pretty much came about because I was working with seniors 100% of the time in long-term care, Medicare supplements, fixed annuities, and then I was getting referrals for their kids or somebody else who wasn't quite a senior yet, and I transitioned to starting with term insurance and a few other products that were not necessarily for under 65 or not a senior product. Oh. So I typically use term insurance, Medicare supplements, some fixed annuities, disability, long-term care, and dental now as well.
That's great. So is most of your client base, would you say, is the senior market, or now it's spread out because of referrals and kids and grandkids?
My client base is split in half. About half seniors and half younger generations.
Got it. Do you? I'm just curious. Med Sup was always a great door opener. We have a lot of agents that use that to get their foot in, and then they pivot. Obviously, would you suggest that for other agents?
Oh, absolutely. The Medicare products are the foot in the door, especially a Medicare supplement. To lead into long-term care, short-term recovery care that's just a shorter version of long-term care, and fixed annuities, because those are the products for the senior market. And where we live down here in Florida, there's no better place to be. Yeah,
I could not agree more. We have a lot of big agencies and agents that do exactly what you just mentioned, and they're very, very successful at it. And they just basically cross-sell and pivot and obviously get the referrals if they do a great job, and just kind of build from there. So I love that. and then, if you get a referral and it's a child or a grandchild or whatever the case is, and you wind up selling a whole life or an IUL, it's like, great, this med sup opened the door. So you just never know what it could lead to. So, and let's also shift gears for a second and talk about, leads and referrals. And we have a lot of agents that focus on social media, like Facebook ads, and they generate leads from their own social media pages, or they buy leads, or they focus on referrals, or all the above. Can you give everyone a little 100-foot overview on what your model looks like?
My motto looks like always, always, always ask for referrals, because the referral is the best lead source you're ever going to have. At least it has been for me. But the referrals, don't come sometimes as easily or as quickly as some of the other things. So I use a lot of different lead sources. I use different lead sources for different products, whether it's from my website, whether it's purchasing internet leads, or doing a little bit of Facebook advertising, which just recently I've started with your help, Bill, through one of your companies that you referred me to.
Yeah.
And I don't do any networking as far as social groups or LinkedIn or social media. It just wasn't my thing. But I try to utilize a lot of the other sources that are available, and there's so much more available now than there used to be 20-some years ago.
Yeah, it's like a whole new world now. And that's great. It's great to hear. I love the fact that you're trying new things. You're using the social media platform, the lead vendors, and now even Ringy. I think you started pretty recently, right?
I did start using Ringy. I've been looking for a CRM that would do what I wanted it to do as an insurance agent. This was the first. I came to your convention about 6 months ago, and you had a presentation from one of the vendors about this new CRM system. From everything that they said, it was going to do all the different things that I wanted it to do. I wanted it to be able to send out an email, send out a text, send out follow-up drips. I wanted to be able to use it for lead notifications when they came in. So for me, this is the first CRM after 25 years plus of being in the business, which didn't exist in the beginning, but this is the first CRM that I have ever followed through, used, and will never be without it again.
I love to hear that. I love to hear. And the way, and just so everybody is aware, right, we have these annual expos, and that's what Natalie is referring to. We partnered up with this Ringy platform, and Levinson agents get this 30% discount for the first 6 months. And what's so neat about it, Natalie, and correct me if I'm wrong, obviously we're on the wholesale end and you're on the retail side, but what's so neat about this is you would take all of your consumers, prospects, referrals, your clients, kids, grandkids, all the above, and put them into the Ringy system and then come up with different marketing strategies. And the point is, number one, to let everybody know that you are the go-to for these various insurance products, right, when the need comes up. And number two is have them click a button to schedule an appointment on your shared calendar, and you get a text on your phone that says, hey, Bill Levinson wants to speak Thursday at 2 p.m. about final expense or MedSup or whatever the case is. So this automates your entire back office. It's like having an assistant, right? But everything's automated. So I personally love it. We use it in the office for servicing and recruiting new agents, mainly from social media pages. So similar concept, right? But just for the wholesale side. So Natalie, I love hearing that you dove into this, right? And obviously you're still getting your arms wrapped around it, but it's working for you. And I love to hear it.
It's definitely working for me. It's also really improved my my follow-up because it gives me automatic reminders. It goes on a schedule automatically. I was able to, I have about 4 different lead sources that I'm running through Ringy. Each lead source, I've been able to customize the response and the drip campaign. So it sounds like I'm actually typing a message, does not sound like it's a canned pitch and just an automated response. And it's specific to each product line for the lead that person sent in. So I'm been thrilled with it.
Yeah, I love it. And just so everyone understands, you can set up these campaigns. Like, for example, if Natalie is focusing on final expense leads, right? This campaign can be specifically for burial insurance, final expense, right? And last wish planning and, everything related to senior final expense insurance. Or if it's health insurance, right? You can base it around that if it's annuities or life insurance in general. She's exactly right. So it makes a lot of sense. And for some people, right, it takes a little bit to get their arms wrapped around it and for them to start using it effectively. But I'm going to tell you right now, I don't care what age you are and how long you've been doing this, it is worth every minute spent. And all you have to think about is this, and correct me if I'm wrong again, but in sales, right, in general, right, it's the law of large numbers. And it's a fact that sales, or even on the recruiting side, right, recruiting or sales, aren't typically made until number 5 through 12. Okay, so if you know that, it doesn't matter if you're working leads, life, health, doesn't make a difference. If you know that, and you're not using a platform like Ringy, how are you going to stay on top of every person for the 5th through 12th phone call, email, text message, and follow-up? It's almost impossible. You're probably not going to make it there. So this system does that for you in a nutshell. Am I right, Natalie? I mean, is that pretty much?
You're definitely right. I've never been able to give as much attention and follow-up consistently scheduled as I have since I started using the Ringy. So it's definitely, after a few times, and then I was getting other leads coming in and things take priority, but now it's automated. So I've already seen the fruits of this. There's been a few leads that were somewhat aged, but all of a sudden they replied to one of my drips and it resulted in a sale that I probably wouldn't have had.
Yeah.
So it's working for me.
I love it. And I hear a very similar story with our agents that are using it. So it's great. It's great. And I love the fact that you decided to jump in, give it a shot, right? Give it all you have and made it work. So kudos to you. I mean, that's awesome. Okay, let's keep moving along here. So, the bottom line is, and I think it's important that the audience walks away with some nuggets and maybe a new strategy idea that you can start using, this afternoon, tomorrow, over the next week, whatever it is, right? That's the goal, and that's why I want everyone to take notes, use a notes app. If you pick up one thing, great, okay? That's the way I look at everything. What I like to talk about, right, and along these lines is I feel like in life, and it doesn't matter if you're an agent or not, whatever it is, you need to have that someone or something that keeps your head in the game, that keeps you focused, right? Is there anything that you do? I don't know if it's a mentor, if it's yoga, certain books, webinars. Is there anything that you like to do that keeps you focused, that's great for training and, could be related to our industry or not?
As far as training, I think that the podcasts are a great way to keep up on podcasts and webinars are a great way to keep up on new ideas and new things in the industry. So everything's changing constantly. 20 years ago, I'm just going to say approximately 20 years ago, the lead sources were outbound telemarketing calls that you physically had to dial and mail response. So it's really shifted, and you got to be open to change, because that's not where the majority of the leads are generated anymore. So I just really think that being open, not putting all of your eggs in one basket as far as marketing sources and avenues, using different things, and not being afraid to change what you're doing and try things. I've tried a lot of things over the year, tried it, didn't work, moved on to the next thing. So
yeah, it's so important. It's so important, right? Because you look at even 5 years ago, this pre-pandemic, right? Look at the way life insurance was sold, right? A lot of the MDRT top producers, they would say to me, Bill, I see every single client face to face, and that's the way I do business. Okay, that's great, and it sounds wonderful. And look how things have changed, right? If that was 5 years ago, look at 3 years later. We're in the middle of COVID, right? And those days are over. Obviously, no one wants to see you face to face. It doesn't matter how great you are and how much they love you, right? It's going to be over the phone or virtual, online, or through a Zoom or GoToWebinar. So you had to change. And if you didn't change, right, you were left behind, and I guarantee you didn't grow your business. So I think that is huge. And you're exactly right. You have to be willing to try new things, right? And don't get scared about the change and the new technology. You got to be open-minded. Not everything is going to work, but give it a shot. And if it works for you, great. But you're exactly right. I remember, even 10 years ago, we spent a lot of money on magazine advertisements, different ads, it didn't matter if it was, mortgage protection, IUL. And now you look at fast forward today, 2022, everything is online with social media ads. And if you look at some of the industry trade publications, okay, they're like, maybe they were 80, 90 pages thick. Today, like 10 pages, 15 pages, if you're lucky. And 90% of the pages are editorials or articles. They don't have any more advertisements because the companies, the insurance carriers, the IMOs stopped spending money. So things have changed, okay, at your level, our level, the carrier level, and you have to be open-minded. So you're exactly right. Did you, and I'm just curious, did you notice any change in business with the whole pandemic and COVID? Did things change business-wise for the better, for the worse, or pretty much the same for you?
I was very fortunate.
Yeah.
I started making the transition to phone sales in probably about 2012. So I started really early. It was very difficult. I too saw every single person in person, sat at the kitchen table, on the couch, whatever it was, drove hours sometimes because I covered the state of Ohio at one point, or Florida, and I would go, to several other counties. So I saw every single person. So it was a little bit uncomfortable, but it just took practice. And the more you do it, the easier it is. So by the time COVID hit, I had, several years and probably 4 or 5 years of 100% over the phone by the time COVID hit. So I was very fortunate. And I did see an increase in my life insurance business. That business, I felt, increased a little bit because people started to panic, and the leads were coming in, quicker, and more often than they did before the pandemic. So I was fortunate that I didn't really see a change other than a little bit of an increase in my life business.
Yeah, I love to hear it. I mean, obviously this whole COVID thing is horrible, but I'll tell you what, as a insurance agent, a life insurance agent, there was no better time, because you're exactly right. You know, this conversation came up around the dinner table, and mommy and daddy, right, want to make sure if something happens, because they're hearing these stories, right, and sometimes it hits home with a family member or friend or on the news, and they say, oh my gosh, I don't have a life insurance policy, and boom, a lead is generated or a call is made, and that's pretty much the norm in the industry for the last almost 3 years now, just over 2.5 years. So it's, you hate to make light of a bad situation, but I don't know. I just feel like as a life insurance agent, you got to capitalize on these moments, these times, and now is the time to get the word out. And it sounds like that's what you did, and you were very proactive with your phone sales, and starting that, years, a ton of years before this whole pandemic. So I love it. I love to hear it. I think it's great. I remember we did a podcast with a very successful agency, and it was before the pandemic, and they said, Bill, we don't see 99% of our client database. We either sell them over the phone or virtual. And this is right before the pandemic. And there were some agents that said, there's no way. That's crazy. I don't believe it, whatever. Now, all of a sudden they say, well, we're doing the same exact thing. So it just goes to show you how things have changed so quickly. And the insurance companies have changed so quickly as well. I remember there were some products that to be sold, you had to see the client face to face. And that was just 3 years ago. And that changed. So anyway,
yes,
it's just
it did.
a different. Yep. Yeah. All right. So just shifting gears again, we have a lot of agents, like I said earlier, a lot of younger agents just getting into the business or even thinking about getting into our business. What advice would you give? What did you, maybe you learned something, from your father about the business, or is there any tips, tricks, anything that you could share with the audience?
Tips and tricks, again, was something that was ingrained in me in my in childhood from my father, and also the first insurance company that I worked for, I had a fabulous mentor. He was my boss, and he was a strong believer in a gentleman, which if you're younger, you may not have ever heard of him. His name was Zig Ziglar. And of course, you have other people like Tony Robbins. From my father, it was a gentleman named W. Clement Stone, who was the founder of Combined Insurance. And I was always taught to have a positive mental attitude. That was the Clement Stone positive thinking. So you have to stay positive, and the glass is always half full, not half empty. And it's going to take a while to build your business, but I don't know who said it, but it still holds true today, because every no will get you closer to a yes. So just, persistence, like Ray Kroc had the famous press on.
Yep.
So persistence will outweigh everything. So eventually things will start to happen and turn. I think some of the other things for newer agents is you have to be able to understand that you're going to commit a lot of time in the beginning. I would say easily, when I started, I was putting in 60 hours a week. But as time goes on, typically I think the first 5 years or so of a career in insurance, that you spend a lot of time and you work very hard, and sometimes it's for very little depending on the product, and then you see that transition where you don't have to work as much or as hard as your income goes up, especially as you get referrals from your client base, maybe some renewals on certain types of products. So you have to dedicate the time, and you have to be very, very diligent with time management, with allocating your time to market, allocating your time to work on your website, work on social media. And I think that time management and persistence brings success.
Could not agree more. Could not agree more. That was perfect, spot on, Natalie. Love it. And I'm also going to mention another thing too, and it's piggybacked off what you mentioned. The patience part and the persistent part is so important, because there's no shortcut, right? In this business or any real industry, right? When you're building a career, it's going to take time, and you got to be able to pivot and change and try these new things, and find a mentor, a GA or IMO, whatever it is. Even in the beginning, right? If you work as a career agent, or if you work as a captive agent, and you can pick someone's brain and share, appointments and sales and apps with that person, that's priceless. It's okay, if you do it for a year or two and learn the basics, and then, go off on your own and go from there. But the bottom line is do whatever it takes, right? And find that thing that works for you. Figure out your niche, and you just run with it, right? And that was part of the reason why I wanted Natalie to share and jump on this episode, was everyone has a different message. Everyone has their own strategy, their niche, right? And hers, obviously, she mentioned, about half of her client base is seniors, the other half is not, and how she works with different lead vendors and obviously referrals, and now Ringy. And it's great to hear, because you take a little bit of her story, right? And maybe you heard about Ian or Emmanuel or whoever it is, and then figure out what works for you, and then put your own little spin on it, and then you run with it, and that's it. So I think it's great. And that Ray Kroc story is awesome. The Zig Ziglar, I used to listen to his CDs when I was younger. And Tony Robbins, obviously, it could be a mentor, it could be all the above. You have to instill that in your head. You got to figure it out, at least in the beginning, day in and day out, to be in that right state of mind, in the right zone, because it's not easy. And you got to figure out what that special sauce is. So I love to hear your take on that, Natalie. All right, we're going to end with this. And I know that you focus on your website, and you're getting more involved with social media and obviously Ringy. But when did you create your website, and do you think that's important for the agents to have? I'm just curious to hear your take on this.
I think a website is absolutely 100% critical. It would be the first thing that I would start working on. And also, especially if you're younger, you're used to social media, whereas somebody like me, social media a little more difficult to get used to. But that website, I was lucky that I created one many years ago, but it really didn't do anything. You have to create a website. You have to make sure that you maintain it, keep it updated. Social media, take advantage of it, as much as you can. These are a few things that I really wish that I truly put more time and more money, more effort into years ago, which probably, would have paid off at this point. But you got to take advantage of everything electronic that you can, and don't put your focus all on one marketing source. Do different things.
Yeah, there you have it. That's exactly right. You got to be spread out, and you can't focus on one strategy or lead source. Or I couldn't agree more. And she's right. And there you heard it from a 25-year veteran in the space. So, and per her words, right? She wished she started this years and years and years ago. So, you listening have the opportunity now. And I'm telling you, you got to have your website. You got to have your social media pages. You got to be active. You got to have a tool like Ringy. Okay, if it's not Ringy, something similar. But you got to spread the message, right? And this stuff is real. We're in Life Insurance Awareness Month right now. It's September. And, you know, it's your job to spread the message, to get the word out, share these stories. And I'm sure Natalie has a bunch. We can probably do a whole nother episode just on that side, right? But, you know, I'm going to share something personal that just happened. And this was today's Friday. I found out yesterday. And, you know, you talk about you're an agent, right? And it's your job, it's your responsibility to help these families, right, and get the stories out, right? It's so important. And you think, you know, oh, you know, death, yeah, it happens, but not to me or not my family, or, you know, it's a lot of talk, and these companies just want to keep your premium, and, you know, whatever, right? Those are all the rumors out there. So this is just the other day, and I'm going to share this real quick, and then we can put a bow on this, but. And everyone knows I'm into the motivation and the podcasts and CDs, you know, all the above, whatever it is. If it's a great book and I can learn something, I'm all about it. So I'm listening to my podcast, and there was a great speaker. So Wednesday night after work, I'm driving to a dinner meeting in Miami, which is about an hour away, and I'm listening to this episode. And this guy speaking was unbelievable. They just did a Netflix documentary on this gentleman. And I'm listening to him speak, and I'm learning so much, and I was so blown away. He's a stand-up comedian. He's like a celebrity. And I was so blown away that on the way back from dinner, I had another hour ride home. I listened to it again, all over again, right? Because I figured I can pick up something new. And by the way, if you want to take a note, the guy's name is David A. Arnold. And you should definitely jot that down and listen to the podcast episode. So it was amazing. I was blown away. This was Wednesday, okay? I come into work Thursday, which was yesterday, okay? And I'm sharing this now with my marketing team. And I said, you have to listen to this podcast episode. This guy was unbelievable. There was so many great strategies, just, you know, life lessons, all the above. So Andrew says to me, he sits next door to me, he says, Bill, he goes, give me the spelling of his name. And I said, all right, it's David A. Arnold. David A. Arnold. And I pull it up online to show everybody, and it says in loving memory of David A. Arnold. So I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. So I do another search. It turns out David did this podcast episode live on Tuesday. Okay, 54 years old, in great shape. This was Tuesday. The episode went live. Wednesday, he died of natural causes. A day later, Thursday, yesterday morning, I'm showing them and sharing with our team, and it says that they found out the night before he died in his home in L.A., California, died of natural causes, gone. And I was just blown away. And, you know, obviously I didn't know him personally, but the message here is this is real life, folks. This stuff happens every day, especially now during a pandemic. So you have to get these stories out. This is real life. And you could provide a safety net for these families. It's huge. So just like Natalie spoke about, right, and I'm speaking about, it's a very serious matter. And your commissions obviously are important, but what's even more important is keeping little Jenny and Susie, right, in their home where they grew up. And wouldn't it be great where they can still go to college if the breadwinner passes on that's in the house providing? So it's your job. Anyway, enough of my ranting. I just wanted to end with that quick story that hit hard with me. I mean, just happened yesterday. So crazy stuff. Okay, Natalie, before we let everyone go, is there anything you want to leave the audience with?
Well, first of all, I'd really like to thank you, Bill, for doing this. It was an honor to me. I know you have a lot of other agents that are very large producers. I'm just an individual, but I really appreciate the opportunity. I also want to leave you with something that happened to me many, many years ago. I got out of the business, or took a step back for a couple years, tried something else that I had a passion for, which was cooking. Worked very hard, got into my car one day, found a renewal check from an insurance company that I had written business with several years prior. And I thought to myself, I'm crazy. This is ridiculous. I'm going back to insurance, and that was the end of it. And it's been a fabulous decision, and it's a lifelong career for me for the rest of my working years.
Wow.
Great way to go.
That's an awesome story. And I think everybody could relate to that. And there's a lesson right there, a nugget to walk away with, right? Which we always try to look for with these episodes. And I also want to say, you mentioned it was an honor, to be considered for the podcast. And it's an honor for us that you took the time to spend it here today, right? To help Levinson and, most important, our agents out there in the field. So big thank you to you. And I also want to mention, for further information, if you want to get a hold of Natalie, her website is bestquoteinc.com. I know I mentioned it earlier. And also let us know if you need her contact info. I would gladly share it with you. She's open to working with agents in Florida, and she's also licensed as a GA in most states in the country. Okay, so she's open to that. If you're open to that, so you let us know. And then, it's interesting about your renewal check story and how that brought you back into the business. I remember my father growing up in the business, right, introduced me to his good friend who's a professor at the local college that teaches life insurance CE. And he told me, and I'll never forget his words, and he said, Bill, he goes, this business is going to be either the best dream in the world or a nightmare. And he's like, it's all what you make of it. And I will tell you, to this day, it's been the best kept secret in the world and a dream come true for me and my family and our employees. We call it a big family here, an extended family. So, Natalie, you're part of that family as well now. So we appreciate it once again. I want to thank all of our agents once again. It's also Life Insurance Awareness Month, so it's time to spread the word and share these stories, these reviews, testimonials from your consumers. Get them out there to the masses through social media, YouTube, etc. Now is the time, right? We're coming out of summer, right? We're coming into season. We're going to be starting a new year soon, and I hope you make it the best year ever and leverage our tools and these episodes and our trainings. Let's make it a great September. Thank you once again, and please reach out to our marketing department for any information that we mentioned today. Have a great day, and thanks again, everyone, and great selling. Take care.
Thank you for joining us for the Bill Levinson Experience. Please feel free to share this podcast with anyone you think would be interested. You may also visit LevinsonAssociates.com and all of Bill Levinson's social media pages for more information.